Okay, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesson Non-Classics. Excuse me. This is episode number... I thought last episode was episode 3430. It was actually 3132. This one's actually 3433 and Doubleshot number 3325. Got two DC trades. Like the case, the last one. First one's the last one for the run. The other is second trade for the run. First up we have is The Flash by Spurrier, Volume 4. Collecting issues for Flash Volume 6, 2025, and a special. The Bad Moon Rising special. Yep, this book is the last one to collect issues from Simon Spurrier's run for The Flash. I can do my final thoughts later, so what exactly happens in this book? Well, the whole thing of this book is that Wally creates duplicates himself to fight a war over the moon. Yes, working with the Pilgrim program and his family, along with Avery, Ace, and mostly put, that's a lot of what this book is. And they're fighting over the moon here with, let's look at Captain Zero, which actually is, and then apparently, get this, so the reason why they're fighting over the moon, so you have Barry show up, obvious, for some reason, and, well, there's a reason why they're fighting here, and we'll get to that. And then for some random reason, we have Max Mercury randomly show up here. Well, these duplicates here, and these captains in the future. And there's stuff here with the West family and the Pilgrim. Oh yeah, and there's also teasing here of the very next story, KO, with the Legion of Darkseid. Yep, that's the only reason why Simon Spurrier threw them in here, because they're teasing it. And basically, it's just a massive war with all these duplicates. And also, we have the Shade. Yep, the Shade is here. First time in the Flash book since Joshua Williamson's run for the book. Yes. And the reason why, and then we also run into the Alien Starman. Yep. I'm like, that's really cool, the fact that they brought him back here. And he goes to Shadowlands, and then we see, oh my gosh, Simon Cup. Yes. And he's dead. Yeah. I'm like, I love the fact, and then we meet the true antagonist of the storyline, Eclipso. I'm like, okay, interesting. And he possesses the Shade, and we have these other captains, per se. And apparently he's been killing off other West versions anyways. And now Flash has to fight the Shade, who's an enemy of the Jay Garrick Flash. And he's different. Oh, by the way, last showed up, Barry was basically in the Flash costume. Yes. So then, and then of course you have Jay just messes with his mind because Shade sent him to get her for some reason. Oh, by the way, for some weird reason, one of Wally's costumes makes it look like the costume he had from his Rebirth costume. Then we see stuff with Darkseid because he basically overcame Eclipso. Yeah, and basically it's the reason why it's called Bad Moon, because they're fighting frickin' Eclipso. And then we see the moon controlled by Darkseid. And then, of course, Eclipse like, oh, my legacy. And we kind of wrap this up with issue 25, which is kind of interesting. Also, all the other Wallies all get killed off here. They re-emerged. And, well... And then, of course, basically, we have where Wally and Linda just make out. And then the book ends with, like, a nice little happy note. And well, next up is KO. It's almost like this book was set up for KO. That's simply put what Simon Spurrier did with this book. It just set up for that crossover. Which, fine, I have no problem with that. But this actually was surprisingly really good. I enjoyed this one. Get this book roughly, a 9 out of 10. Final thoughts on the Simon Spurrier run for Flash. The biggest problem with this run is the start, where it became very horrible. Like, the first half of this book was so bizarre, to say the least. It's like, after you get past the first, the book becomes a little bit better, but not by a lot. And I can see why Simon Spurrier had to leave this book, because clearly it wasn't working with him. So it just, like, whatever he wanted to do, basically DC told him just to throw it away, just do traditional superhero stuff, don't do the weird stuff from the first 12 issues, just do something else. And I guess he just probably left at that point, because starting with issue 26, we have Mark Waid return to the title, which I read those first few issues. They're actually surprisingly really good. A lot of references to old stuff here. But I love and also the fact that Impulse is in the issues too, because for some weird reason, it's like, okay, Mark Waid comes on the title, and the first thing he writes is a tie-in for KO. Yes, that's what he does. And this trade here was only the second trade of the All-In Initiative. For an ending, this actually was really... I love seeing the Shade again, because I love the Shade. I also like seeing Simon Cupp, the Alien Starman, who originally appeared in one comic. He never had any solo adventures, and then he just returned in James Robertson Starman. I like the... It seems as though Simon Spurrier was probably either him or probably the artist. Probably thought it would be a good idea to do a love letter to James Robertson Starman without Jack Knight. It's mostly with Shade stuff, which I thought was pretty good, but yep, it's kind of good the fact that Simon Spurrier left. It's just that the book itself, it says, from fan favorite Flash team with Simon Spurrier and artist Vinita Gergiev. I don't think that's quite accurate, because not a lot of people like Simon Spurrier stuff. It's not terrible. A lot of the stuff, I think this last trade was actually pretty good. I like that. But you read it, and it's obviously set for KO. It doesn't say prologue to KO, like in the case of one of the air trades I reviewed. But Eclipso, interesting. Yep. So next up we have is Nightwing by Dan Winters, Volume 2, Deathtraps. I was kind of surprised to see this come out. Yes, like I got Volume 2 Volume 1 like last week, and here's Volume 2, which contains Nightwing Volume 3. Issues 125 to 129, along with the annual. Yep, it's the annual 2025. It's actually like any number, like 3 or 4, I think it is. So, Dan Winters is the writer. Francisco Francavilla is the artist with Dexter Soy, and the trade cover is Dexter Soy, Andrea Locos, who is the just part of the cover. So. Basically, here's what happens. So, yeah, seeing this artwork here, it's like, I'm like, oh, look, here it's Francisco Francavilla. I love this guy's artwork. And it just basically looks like where we have the detective, we have this, actually start with Maggie. Yes, Maggie, which, yep. Maggie, of course, is the commissioner of the Bloodhaven Police Department. Plus, at least Dan Winters remembers the fact that she's an open lesbian. Yep, so she with her girlfriend, and, well, there's dead body. Done some investigating. It's like... And, of course, Chris has what happened in the previous book. Yeah, basically all with this guy Bill, who just retired. Yeah, some police stuff here with this opening issue. those who are curious, is this the annual or is this the main issue? No, this is 125. Yep. And we have this guy here who's clearly a stand-in for the Shadow. Stop by the name of the law. You're like, who the heck is this guy? It's just volume 4. That was volume 3, by mistake. Because the first one was limited series, second volume was the 153 issue book, and then volume 3 was like 30 issues. So, yeah, Maggie and people have to deal with him, and of course, the book is called Buy the Book. That's the opening story here. Or basically kind of like a murder mystery. Here's, of course, Robert Gordon, and we have these police robots. This robot here reminds me of the robot from RoboCop, which is kind of funny. Here's this haunted house. So let's see, who is this guy? Investigate some crime scene, and then it kind of wraps up with basically just, let's see. Okay, he's called Captain Hollow. Yes, Captain Hollow. It's kind of interesting with Captain Hollow himself. It's like this whole story here was a quick, like, little two-parter, and now we have the other. Yep. So then, of course, you have this kid who pays a visit to the abandoned Titan store, which I could have sworn, basically, that Nightwing's on the building, so he lives there. Yep, it's Nightwing's apartment. Well, there's nothing says he can't live in his former headquarters. So in a way, he's living in a building he owns, so there's nothing really wrong with that. So then we have this weird alien creature pop up here. And of course, Olivia gives him a brand new costume. Yeah, a brand new costume, which is a costume he wears in the cover. Yep, so after, gosh, like 126 issues, he gets a brand spanking new costume. Yeah, I did find it interesting, though, the fact that, yeah, let's ditch Nightwing's the class people like have this armor look for him. Yeah, and then, of course, basically, turns out this creature is caused by Nightmite. Yeah, he's those of you curious about this guy here, he is... He's simply put, basically, the comics version of Larry from the Teen Titans TV show now, is the original character for this continuity. He is. He is completely original. Yeah, he's like basically Nightwing's version of Batmite. And then we see this person who's wearing Nightwing of Kandor's costume. And then Nightwing runs into Deathwing, who he points out though is dead. Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, it's kind of interesting they brought him back here for this. After he's been dead since issue 20. He's back here for this cool storyline. And the cool thing about Deathwing is Deathwing, he actually wears Nightwing's early costume from early 1990s. And then he runs into basically now Kandor. Turns out actually it's the kid Bryce from the previous story arc. Yeah, this is him back as well, he's posing as Vin Z. Yeah, first that was Nightwing Prime. Also, Nightwing's dog gets mutated. This appears occasionally. And yeah, he has a new version of his dog, and it turns out the reason why that Bryce, the kid from the opening story, is actually now Nightwing Prime, because of course basically Nightmite aged him up. So Haley's back normal, and then of course we have him going off to space. I love this little cool moment here where you have Nightwing just standing over Bloodhaven like he's Batman. And of course, Nightwing Prime is acting like he's Superman. And then move on to the annual, where a guy who doesn't like Grey Ghost and Wonder Boy, which is clearly this guy here is a clear stand-in for, of all things, that stupid psychiatrist in the 50s who mistakenly thought that, get this, who thought reading comic books would turn minors into criminals. Oh, by the way, the annual 2025, this actually is the 3, 4, 5, 6. This only is the 7th annual. You're like, really? 7th? Yeah, 7th. And they've had annuals of this volume since the volume started. The only year it missed, like the first 2 years of this book, there were no annuals. Yeah, it didn't have the first annual until 2018. Yes. And then pretty much mostly every year forward, except for 2023. Yeah, there was none that year for some reason. Not sure why, but kind of was there. So, excuse me. So in this book, they deal with the Grey Ghost. And they have this kid, Wonder Boy, who is... Here's the thing about him. He's a character who debuted in National Comics #1 originally. And then he appears... That was back in 1940. And then he appears as continuity in this annual, except he's a fictional character. And there's a thing with that where apparently, like... and then go to Arkham Tower of all things. Yes, Arkham Tower makes an appearance in this annual, which I did not expect that. Yeah, first time I was playing the books issue 110 with Tom Taylor wrote it. And I do enjoy the annual for what it is. And It's just really good. I get this book is actually surprisingly really good. I get the book roughly 9 out of 10. Just really good. I love every aspect of this book. And can't wait to review the next of issues. Yeah. Kind of interesting, though, the fact that Tom Taylor threw in that how Maggie Sawyer is basically a supporting character in Nightwing. A character who's clearly a Superman character. Yeah, she did appear in Action Comics a little bit, not much. Under Bendis, that's when she returned the book. She only appeared in a handful of issues, which is kind of surprising. Those of you curious, though, did she ever appear in Superman? Well, she appeared in Superwoman. She did. But Superman? She appeared in one issue of Superman. So, you're probably all thinking, let me get this straight. So, most appearances have been Bat books? A character who's clearly a Superman character appears a lot more in Bat books than he does appearing in Superman. The answer to that is, I guess the writers of DC Comics want to keep her away from Superman. It's like they put her back in Superman and then they took her out again. Not really sure why, but she's been a recurring character in Nightwing since Tom Taylor wrote the book. And Dan Winters pretty much basically, well, he pretty much basically just kept her as a recurring character a little bit throughout the later half of his run. And since Dan Winters taken over the book, he has kept her a book a little bit. He's not ran the book very long. I mean, he only took over the book with issue 119. Which, if you're really curious, was a little over a year ago. That's when he took over the book. And he's been the writer ever since then. And Dexter Soy's been the primary artist of this book. Yeah. Yeah, but there's not really much to say about this book per se. These two books, so that's pretty much it for today's video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Well, I'm going to try to get in some Slayers now, okay? Thanks, people. Bye.